My name is Abigail Carroll. I grew up in Orono, and now I have an oyster farm in Scarborough, Maine. The oyster industry obviously has been hugely impacted by the pandemic because we rely so much on restaurants. And without restaurants, our market really dries up pretty quickly. In the first few weeks of the pandemic, we went from 12,000 a week oysters in sales to nothing. And then at one point I thought, oh, maybe I should start calling people. And so slowly I started, calling my clients, and slowly they started picking up sales again. But, and we had a decent summer, but now we're looking at the fall and a lot of uncertainty again as diners have to go back inside, and we just don't know what the future is.
My name is Angela Okafor. I own an international market, Tropical Taste and Styles. Okafor Law Practice, Angela's Hair Braiding and Crafts. It's been a struggle having to I could have stayed open though, but having kids and being held at home with me, little kids especially, it has slowed a lot of things down for me. It has affected a lot of my income, and it's been a lot, especially, but my most struggle is usually, childcare around everything for me.
The pandemic has affected the book industry greatly. We've seen a lot of independent bookstores across the country need to close due to just low business and other safety concerns. Here at the Briar Patch, we have been able to maintain some level of business since the pandemic started, although we continue to not at this point have people inside the store. We've had to pivot and figure out how to reach customers and have customers be able to reach us, to be able to give them the things that they're looking for, whether it's reading material, educational material for their children and families, and doing so through curbside service or new online services. It's really made us really kind of think about how we do business, and again, how to close up those holes that the pandemic has created for us.
Well, I have to say, Mainers are usually living in Maine because they enjoy a certain amount of social distancing naturally.
I think a lot of Mainers are used to some level of isolation when we have long winters or we live in more rural areas. There are many people that don't come into town, so to speak, from other parts of the state, except for maybe once or twice a month. That type of isolation, people are used to relying on themselves, used to stocking up and having the supplies they need to get by through months of winter or months of work that they can't get away from if they're working on farms and things like that. And I think that sort of adds to Mainers' ability to get through the pandemic differently. I think what the future will have a hard time remembering about the pandemic is the day-to-day life.
I think it's going to be really easy in a year or two or longer for us to sort of reduce the pandemic to a time when our groceries were delivered and we sat home watching Netflix. I think it'll be easy maybe to forget just the level of stress we feel on a daily basis, and how our inability to congregate as we're used to really affects us and wears down on us. And, I didn't know I was a hugger before the pandemic, and it turns out I'm a hugger. Who knew? But I miss those really personal opportunities to engage with people I would hug, and even people that I would normally see in day-to-day life, just especially at the heart of the shutdown where we really weren't leaving our houses very much. Gosh, seeing the face of the postman, having a casual conversation with the baker, these are the day-to-day, sort of interactions that make our lives special and happy.
I really do not think there is anything that wouldn't be remembered in the future about this pandemic, because, different people are going through the struggles of this pandemic in different ways, and I believe they will hand down their stories and experiences in the same different ways. So I really do not believe that there will be anything forgotten actually about this pandemic.
I would ask that the future really take a look at what we've gone through this pandemic, the preparations, the warnings, and understand that you don't know what's going to come. So to learn from the past is so important. If we had really kind of looked at what other countries and even this country has done in previous pandemics years ago, then I think maybe we could have taken this a little more seriously and kept the pandemic from continuing to spread and respread throughout the country.